All right, well, welcome everyone to DES 344 Advanced Print Production. And welcome, sorry, we are just a little bit late to getting started. This is, as this was a slightly altered time, I forgot about other things that happened on Wednesday morning that did not slightly alter. So we had to just jump the time just a little bit down. But yeah, we are here now. We are ready to go, and we will continue on for a bit as well. So welcome everyone. As I said, this is DES 344 Advanced Print Production. And let me just pull this out for 1 second because I just realized I have too many other PDFs of other things open, and seeing all those tabs at the top of the window is going to be deeply distracting to me. Even if it's not to you all, but from this side it is. But yeah, so we are in our second session of our fourth week, otherwise known as our final session of the mod. So hopefully everybody's been having a great week 4. Hopefully you feel like you're kind of on track with submissions, with things that you are getting in, with projects coming together, with revisions, with portfolio building, just with all the good stuff that comes in week 4, kind of wrapping things up, tying things up, sending things off, shipping them, etc. If you are still feeling a little bit like you don't quite have it all done, like you're still behind, or just, things have not been quite as seamless as you might have hoped they would be. As always, late work is a good thing, and I will accept it up until midnight on Saturday, which sadly is when the class closes. So after midnight on Saturday, can't turn it in anymore, but up until then, please do all you can to get yourself at least to the 60% mark, which is passing, and if not more than that, I mean ideally more than that, but let's see if we can get everybody to that 60% mark, so that we can have a class that completes, and so you all can move along and keep on heading to your final degree. So I'm curious, we do have one student here. Do you know do you have any estimate as to how long it is until you graduate? For our student who is and who has been a good representative of the class throughout the duration of this course, do you happen to know? I know I know at some point I could probably tell you, but we won't do that within the scope of this class. But yeah, I'm just kind of curious when you all hit this 344 mark, is that like 5 months out, 6 months out, 3 months out till graduation? What's the level? And so for those of you who are watching via video, just think about it. Like, it's not a year, I'm pretty sure. So wherever you might be, next year at this time in the program, you will probably not be in the program. You will probably be complete, which is pretty amazing in so many ways, and definitely, hopefully, another reason to persist, keep on going. I think, especially in the bachelor's program, there's just a lot of, it just gets long. I mean, it's an accelerated pace, but it still gets long. So sometimes it is good to just remind yourself, like, okay, it feels long or whatever, but it is not going to be going for that much longer. So kind of cool as well. All right, well, let's jump in after all that happy talk of finishing graduation and being done with the program, even though, why would you want to be done? No. So much better. Okay, so just a couple things. As we said already, class ends this Saturday at midnight Mountain Time. So you want to just make sure that you are getting your work in by then. So keep on saying that. And as you all have been around for a while, you probably don't need me to say it, but I will say it regardless. Because we do want to make sure everybody gets in all the work that they can in a timely manner. All right, so we are going to talk about today postcard design, which is going to be our assignment for this week. Then we're going to talk about mock-ups and portfolios, and really consider kind of why your portfolio is important again, and then also how you can effectively show off your work within the context of your portfolio. So flat files versus mock-ups. Hopefully you all are a mock-up bunch as well, mostly because I feel like that is the most effective way to show off work. So we'll kind of go over that. And then we'll also talk about, along with that, analyzing for consistency. This is a topic that we were going to talk about yesterday, but we didn't really because we ran a bit out of time. So we're going to touch on it today in the context of just kind of finishing up everything. And one other thing we might do is just a quick review, and we'll kind of buzz through the assessments for that so you guys can get an idea of the kind of questions that you'll be asked and just kind of how to go about essentially studying, but even more just leveraging your resources for succeeding in that assessment that's a quiz. But before we do all of that, as usual, I have the agenda, and then we're going to do something completely different. But we actually had a student who turned in work, and when we were doing our feedback yesterday, I completely passed over these files, and that was 100% my fault. I didn't even realize it until we were finished with the session, and I was closing out files in InDesign, and I was like, oops, the work from student 5/6 never got talked about. And I remember specifically saying, we will talk about this in our session. So if this is your work, I do apologize. It wasn't meant to be, I didn't ignore it on purpose. Just with the shuffle of going back and forth from Illustrator to InDesign, for whatever reason, I just kind of lost touch with it. So here is, let's get the layers open so we can check to see if there's going to be an emboss, and looks like it is emboss. So here's the CD cover, and then here is the folder overall. So the kind of the feedback that I gave to this student, which was actually very similar to the feedback I gave to a lot of you, is I love it, but, and here the I love it, but is again going to come with this idea that it's just a complete copy. So when you have a design, you really do want to have consistency amongst your elements so they all feel like they're, part of the same family. But you do want them also to have a bit of individuality to them, so they're not, a direct replica. So you can kind of think that they're a bit like siblings, or, literally like family members. They have the same nose, they have the same voice, they have the same laugh, whatever. But they are not a direct copy in all ways. It's more like they share similar elements, and through that, they kind of feel like they're connected. So my challenge to you, if this is your work, is again to just see how can you make these feel similar and yet not feel a direct copy. So what I think would be, and I mean, that's a valid thing for everyone. Let's see, artwork front back. Is that it? Apparently not. That's it. Okay. So I like it, but let's just see a little bit how we can tweak it so that maybe it's not quite so a direct match. And now, let's see, did that do anything? No. We'll just get rid of all of the... All right, somewhere there's a locked layer. Maybe it's in our work front and back. There it is, front back. So I like this idea of these chevrons. You just want to be a little bit careful because it looks like it's not quite meeting. It's just a little bit like of a wonky way that they're overlapping together. And let's see, oh, this is created in Illustrator, so it's gonna break up as soon as I start to move it. So we won't do that. We'll just keep it locked. But I like the idea that they're repeating. And so you may almost just like create the whole background as like a series of these stripes. So this in itself becomes, you know, just a universal background. So I think that could be something interesting to try, and of course fix it so it doesn't have that that odd kind of overlap. And then, you know, you have Cloud Sunbeam as your text in the front, and then why do you need it in the back? I don't think you need it in the back. Like, front is good. And then if you have it clearly separated, you know, front to back, then you will see that it is clearly a front, you know, a front thing. And then the back will feel different because it won't have the text on it. And it'll just kind of continue to have this geometric pattern. So I think that, you know, it's an easy fix. You just don't replicate, but you could kind of seam it together. The other thing that you could do is you could kind of rotate this, because you have so much. It kind of feels like it's like a 3D, like optical illusion to me when I look at these shapes and these colors built up. And so could you do something like playing on those angles like this? And I don't know, this is all a could you do it, and I have no idea. I'm not like, you know, saying could you do it and saying yes, do this. I'm more like, would it look cool if you played with kind of like a sense of geometry in this, so that it almost felt like the text itself was kind of shifting and moving through the angles. So instead of just being like slapped onto the could we follow it down the vertical? And again, this is an example of you test and you try, and maybe you did this. I don't know, but you test and you try, and you know, it could be amazing, or it could just be like, ooh, why would anyone ever think of doing that? And you know, it's design. You got to test and see. I do actually think I like it vertical though. At least I like Sunbeam vertical. I'm not quite sure about Cloud, what we would do with that. Could we make it vertical as well? Yeah, I don't know. But so kind of the main thing is just think about how you can create a sense of consistency without creating a direct, well, I guess this was a direct copy, but it was interwoven. So it was meant to be a full, that's kind of cool, meant to be a full background, as opposed to just being you know, four of the shapes kind of side by side. Front to back type thing. So maybe it could separate here. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of cool. And you could even try, you know, does it have to be blue? Could it be white? Does that make any difference? You know, and then test these guys. Could we just make them even larger? It reminds me so much of kind of a mix of like Legos and like a geometric pattern of like a landscape from an airplane window. I'm kind of getting that as well. So it has a really cool feel. And these now feel like little towers that are showing up, which I actually really like. I think that's really cool how the colors themselves have, and I hope you guys can see this in the video as well. Hopefully it's sharing and all. But yeah, so they're like kind of three pillars coming together, and feels kind of cool. Maybe something there. But yeah, so again, here's how it looks, and it just you know, you can repeat. Repeating is fine. I don't want to be anti-repetition, but just think about how you can make the front and the back just really more of kind of more connected, as opposed to a direct copy. So whatever that might look like. And here it looks like you have the emboss on the front, so this must be the front. So I would just say, get rid of this guy. Is that our back cover? Oops, wait a second. Why is the emboss on the back? Oh, emboss front cover. There it is. Okay, so artwork back cover would be this guy. So let's unlock that. Oops. Title front cover. Okay, so here's the title front cover. Title back cover. Is that it? Yeah. So I would say just get rid of the title and the back cover, and then whatever you happen to do you know, you could, I guess you could just keep it as simple. The simplest thing would be to just remove the title from the back, and then keep it, you know, as is. I would say though, just play with this layout just a little bit more. I feel like you could do something more interesting than just and actually, and this is again, you know, we get back to critique. Maybe you have tried these things and it's not worked. But to me, it just feels like we could do more than just have it centered. And I feel like the thing really does. It could be something with these shapes of. If we just see the shapes this way, it is like the more I look at it, the more I really like the optical illusion factor of it. So, I mean, I would say just again, like maybe 20 minutes, open this file and save it as something different and just play around with it a little bit and see what you can do. Because I think you have something really interesting happening with these shapes and these colors and just the way the change in opacity is kind of working out in it. But I don't think that you are there quite yet. And so I think that you just I think you do need to just play a little bit. And if you want me to give you feedback or you do okay, we do have it open both or anything like that, that would be fine. The other thing too is just the spine. Right now, it's going to be white. I don't know. I don't think that's quite the. I kind of feel like it would be even better if we had it. Just kind of amped up so that it would almost be a spot where these guys meet maybe, or it would be something. Yeah, I don't know what it would. Well, no, I think it actually would. I'd say I don't know what it would be, but I think that's a lie. I do know. Um, I think if you had the chevrons kind of connect there, I think that would just be a little bit better because again, it would make your front to back cover really feel like a seamless connection point as opposed to having the white stripe in the middle, which feels like something is kind of missing. So that might be interesting. One other thing you might try, and this is just one other idea I have as I'm looking at the geometry of these shapes, is so let me just get on a new layer so I can do something. Is if you change your type right now, I don't know what this is, but it's nice because it's outlined. But I'm thinking OCR, or even I guess this is what another student used was that other one. But so if you do that and then you do Sunbeam, just again because this has such a geometry to it that I feel like if you picked up that geometry and had that kind of sense of consistency in your I don't know if I like that. I would say it feels a little bit more kind of computery, and for whatever reason, like this feels like kind of constructed as well. So it'd be kind of cool to just see how that would look, how that would go. So just again, something to think about. But yeah, you don't have to, you know, as usual, you don't have to take any of this feedback. The only thing is, I would say something that you should really, really consider. This changing up the font and things. This is, I won't spend too much time doing this because it's kind of a personal preference. But I do like how that looks. But I would say really think about how you can make your front cover and your back cover of both the CD and the folder just be a little bit more cohesive overall so that you're not just doing a direct copy, you know, of everything. You're making it feel kind of more integrated. And then, excuse me, the interior, I think it's fine. You know, you can leave the purple. That's working. But just that front and back, how can you just make it slightly more dynamic? Because these shapes are cool. Like whatever you're doing here with these overlaps, I love it. So, I mean, I want to see more of this. And then just, you know, see how you can make it into a seamless or even a slightly seamed, I don't mind the seaming pattern overall. So, all right. And I do apologize again for not getting feedback to you yesterday. That was just an oversight on my part of file formats and opening and closing and that sort of thing. So, all right. So let us get back into our session. And let's talk just a little bit about postcard design and kind of what that entails. So we talked about this yesterday in a fairly quick manner. And basically what we came to distill from yesterday's session is that the most successful postcard designs really are the ones that emphasize simplicity. So you don't want to throw in everything in the kitchen sink when you're designing a postcard. You really do want to think about how you can, just put in just the right elements in just the right places so that you can communicate with your audience and kind of guide their eye through your design, and how you can make something that really feels special and kind of artful. So good postcards are things that people receive and say, oh, this is really cool. Mediocre postcards are things that people receive and they say junk mail. So you want to make sure that you can do all you can, that you skew your postcard that you're designing for this week into the more beautiful, artful item, so that it is, something in theory that would be more memorable. And it's easy. Well, it's not easy, but one thing that will help us enter that zone is that we have all of our tool belt now of advanced print production strategy. And so those are things like emboss, those are things like foil, those are things like special coating, die cutting, spot colors, what have you. And all of those things are things that will make an item that comes to someone I just feel that much more, special, that much more kind of limited edition, that much more desirable. And it's unfortunate that because once again, we are a fully online course. We can't, physically dream up these things and then see them in production. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but we do kind of have the background. So hopefully you guys are able to see how these different things would look, so that when you're thinking about how you're going to create your postcard, when you're kind of conceptualizing your idea, you can say, okay, this is in theory only a, black box on my postcard. But I know that in an ideal world, as in when this would be produced, this is something that is embossed, so it would be kind of raised from the surface. Or I know that this is just indicated with, a hot pink spot color, but in the real world of design production, this would be a glossy item in kind of a sea of matte or what have you. So all of these things, hopefully they're starting to get into your brains a little bit so that you can see things on screen. And even though they may not be quite what they look like, what they will look like in real life, when you see them on screen, you can kind of conceptualize what they're going to look like. Okay, so let's look at promotional print design part 2. So as was discussed in week 3, promotional materials are more and more entering a hybrid production phase that consists of mixing digital and printed assets for an integrated overall brand experience. And again, as we said, print is dead is kind of a saying that's been, said for a very long time. Print is not dead, but digital is coming alive. And so as designers, we really need to conceptualize, how we use print and how we use digital. And I think that it's great because I think that having to think in these new ways means that we're ultimately thinking smarter about both. So we're thinking, how can we make print as effective as possible? And then also, what is the place for digital? So I think it's a good thing. It's a little inconvenient in many ways, but I think overall it's a very good thing. So as a designer, it is important to understand advanced print production so that you can not only design pieces with high impact on the computer screen, but also so that you can create pieces that have high impact and can be physically produced. In week 2, we designed a poster using specialty print techniques for a musical act, otherwise known as Cloud Sunbeam. Last week, we began a 2-part promotional campaign for the same musical act, designing a presentation folder and a CD holder. This week, we will finish the design for our campaign by adding one additional piece, a postcard meant to be mailed. As graphic design is inherently iterative, meaning you submit work to your clients, they comment on the work, outlining their likes and dislikes and how they feel the work captures their message. You both engage in dialogue and adjust as needed, and then resubmit. This week, we will also do some project updates based on previous feedback and comments received in week 3. So basically, things that we talked about for week 3 submissions, you can feel free to update as you would like, and most likely as you have time. All right, so closing out our project for this mod, there are 2 submissions required for part 2. Number 1, we will design one additional piece for our promotional campaign, a postcard using both an emboss and a specialty ink application, i.e. spot, gloss, varnish, metallic, etc. So here's where it gets interesting and also nice to know as well. The postcard must have the same look and feel of the previous campaign pieces, i.e. postcards can be mini versions of the poster and have much in common visually with the CD holder, so that every part feels cohesive. Use the same text on the postcard that is being used on the poster. As these are meant to be mailed, this too is very key. You will need to design both the front and back of your postcards, make up a fictitious address and name where they will be mailed. In addition, make any necessary adjustments to the poster design from week 2, the presentation folder/CD cover after receiving feedback. For your final project, you will need to resubmit your poster, your updated week 3 work, and your postcard from week 4, and then upload one piece to your Behance portfolio. So this is a little bit important to note. If you haven't done anything leading up to this week, like if you didn't do week 2, so you don't have the poster, but you do have the folder and the CD cover, or if you only did the poster, you don't have the folder CD cover, don't say, oh, I don't have anything, therefore I can't turn anything in. Just turn in whatever it is that you have and you will get points for it. So kind of keep that in mind. Or ideally, if you make a poster for this week, submit it also in week 2 and you will get points for that as well. So I'm totally open to kind of retroactively giving you guys points, but you have to submit in the correct weeks. So if you've done no work and then you just submit everything in week 4, that's great, but I can only give you points in week 4. So just make sure you go back and submit it where you can, and then it will help your grade tremendously. So kind of keep that in mind. Okay, so good things to note. The postcard is kind of like a tiny version of the poster. So keep that in mind. Okay, so how are we going to make this postcard? So I think the easiest way to do it would be to open up your poster, which you've designed in Illustrator. And I'm trying to, as I'm talking, I'm trying to think, did I save my poster from week 2? And I can pretty much guarantee you the answer is no, but that's okay. We can kind of get it on the fly to just show how we would kind of create some consistency. And appreciate the new Illustrator CC opening graphic as we do it. So a couple things. You want it to look like it is related, and yeah, how can you do that? Ideally, you don't want to make a direct copy, but if anything, you could kind of make a direct copy and it would probably not be a terrible thing, mostly because it is moving from the poster. Okay, so let's do create new. Actually, let me stop sharing for just 1 second because I suddenly had a thought that Yeah, no. All right, so let's open up Illustrator one more time and also, oops, share my screen again. Okay. All right, so for our postcard, there's no size requirements per the assignment, but I would recommend that you stay either in the 4x6 or 5x7 realm, mostly because those are kind of common, those are kind of common postcard sizes. And they're just kind of good little orientations that you can work in for this. So I'm going to do inches. And the first thing you're going to have to think about is, do you want, what orientation do you want your postcard to be? I would recommend that you decide what you want. But I think it might, we're going to do 5x7. I think it might actually make the most sense if you do 2 different artboards. And if you do, you're going to do 2 different artboards because you're going to do the front and the back side. And so I think it would make the most sense if you did a front side, which is going to be vertical, and then you click on your artboard tool and come up here to properties and new artboard, and we make it horizontal instead of vertical. So this will be the front. The front will be vertical. The back will be horizontal. And if you see them laid out like this, it'll just be easier to kind of conceptualize as you're designing. And again, if you have updated your Illustrator and you're like, wait, I click on the artboard tool as I just did. That's cool. Okay, and you click on the artboard tool and you're like, where's my whole menu bar up here that used to be here? Just go find your properties and click it open, and it will have the things that you once had at the top in it. So just know that, because whenever software updates, whenever it changes, it takes a couple of uses before you realize where they like stashed everything. It's kind of like if you rearrange your house or you move, you kind of instinctively go to the drawers where things used to be, only to realize that there's nothing there. So make sure that you're exploring a bit. And if you haven't updated yet, then you're like, not going to update. No, you should update, but you do have to build in that time to explore, which is always part of design. Okay, so what goes on your poster or postcard? I would say on the front, just do whatever actually I'm going to borrow the student's background. I would say just do whatever your kind of background graphical stuff is. Ooh, that's big. And the name Cloud Sunbeam. And then what I would put on the back, so let me just write here. Front of the card. And this is just so that we know, what this is. And this is going to be back of the card. We'll label it up here so it's not on the card itself. Okay, so I would say front of the card, have your background, have your graphics, have whatever kind of the graphical element is, but don't have the info about concert times and things unless you want to. I would say concert times and info and such is more back of the card item. So imagine this is coming, through your mail slot. You want to see, imagine it comes in the picture side down. So you see the picture first, and then you want to be so intrigued and oohed and awed by the picture that you flip it over and you want to know what it's all about. So you don't want to put all the information on the front because that will, kind of reveal your secrets too soon. You want to kind of seduce your audience into flipping the card over and wanting to engage in that manner. So I'd recommend just the cloud sunbeam, just the graphical background and whatever you may have as your piece here. And let me just make this something a little bit more fun, like this, like Milka. Font I've grown to love. Okay, so we have this happening here. Okay, so front, just the name, I would say. And this is all me, so if you're like, I want to put it all everywhere, forget what you say, Lisa, that's fine. It's your design, so go for it. But just think logically, and in my logical mind, this is what makes sense. Okay, so on the back, a couple things to know about backs of postcards. You need to have a space for an address, and your space for the address generally is on the right side. So this whole side is generally addressy stuff, so you kind of can't put content here. And if you've ever received a postcard from a loved one in an exotic location, you will know too that the way the post office has it set up is that they have like scans and barcodes and stickers and whatever that they put that usually covers up this lower area. So when you're designing, and particularly when you're putting text into a postcard, the place where it's only going to show up is like this left quad. It's not even a quadrant. It's kind of like a half part of the postcard. So don't be putting your text like all the way across. That wouldn't work. All the way down, not going to work. You just can put it kind of right here. And so what I would recommend is that you go through and you grab your type once more from, if you have your poster open, you can just grab it from there. But I think it might actually be easiest to just get that Word doc one more time. So download this file. And grab that. And copy that. Come back in here. And then start playing with and setting the type. So again, think about just as you let's get this out of Milka because it's really hard to read. Maybe Lead Gothic. So just as you were setting the type for your poster with good hierarchy, think about how you want to have your hierarchy in this little blurb, and what's going to be most important. What do you how do you want to emphasize it? How do you want to do the overall scheme of it, the flow, that sort of thing? So, really think about these decisions. So what I'm thinking, and, you guys can feel free to think along these lines as well. I want to have Mountain Park Presents, and then I want to have Cloud Sunbeam written in the same overall font and feel as my cover. Maybe just with the leading a little bit decreased. Cloud Sunbeam, and then get rid of that. Saturday, oops, wrong spot. So I'm just listing the dates, and also I'm noticing my enter key on my keyboard has started sticking, which is a little bit inconvenient, but that's okay. And so I have easy to scan because I've used good proximity, grouped the text and the information down through what's being shown. And the whole purpose of this postcard is just to get people to show up So, you know, you don't need a lot of information. You don't need a lot of razzle dazzle. You just need, you know, some basic stuff that people can find and follow. And I'm going to just put some lines through. Again, lines are just a good visual device to separate out content and to just aid in overall scanning. And I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to put each of the blocks of text in their own box. And the reason I'm doing that is just, again, it's easier to deal with. If everything is in one box, then you got to like adjust your leading and things, and you can kind of go crazy. I feel I can kind of go crazy doing that. And so it's, yeah. Okay, so let's get rid of these side things. Okay, so all you need really, you know, just the info about when Cloud Sunbeam is going to play and where. And then the other side, you need it as though it has been addressed to someone. And so I'm just going to copy this text box, and I'm going to essentially make it look like it's been sent to me, Lisa Hammershine. And maybe we'll make it a little bit bigger. See how much I can get away with. Yeah, I could actually get away with quite a bit. Sweet. Okay. 1, 2, 3. And you can make up this name, streets, Cleveland, Ohio. Okay. So you need you need an address to something, whatever that something might be. And again, you know, you can feel free to fancy it up however you want to. Like if you want to change the color of something or whatever, that's fine. Just know that with the post office, they tend to like it if you stay fairly restrained in a lot of what you're doing. Mostly because, you know, when you have a lot going on, it sometimes gets hard to read, or if you have like a really scripty font or something like that, they get a little iffy on that part. So you want to kind of design for simplicity. And, you know, everybody wins when you design for simplicity. The post office wins, and we certainly win as well, because it gives us a good kind of look and feel for what's happening. So it's, you know, it's easier for everyone. It's kind of a win for everyone all the way. Okay, so when you have your overall piece, that is the front and the back of the postcard. The final thing you're going to need to do, and make sure you don't forget this, is you're going to need to get your specialty print finish and your emboss indicated in your file. And I think that those are the two. So I would say, though, design everything first, and kind of keep in your head, excuse me, you know, what are we going to put in? What am I going to put in? But then make sure that you put it in. Make sure it doesn't just live in your head, because otherwise you're gonna, you know, miss out on some points. Okay, so when I think about emboss, what I see is definitely the name of this band, so Cloud Sunbeam. So I'm going to come and get my layers. And remember, for the emboss layer, emboss layer, you want to have it be 100% K, which is 100% black, and on its own layer. So that's there. And I'm actually going to, this is going to be crazy, but I'm actually going to delete the one that's in blue, or I'm sorry, so the one that's printed black. So I don't want it black and embossed. I just want it embossed, like just have the, you know, the crazy colors and then pushed out, which I think would be kind of amazing. So we're going to do that. And then also the specialty print finish, you know, what that might be. And I think what would be cool over here is if we did cloud sunbeam in a gold, or I think in a gloss is what I'm going to go for. So what I'm going to do here is again make the new layer, and then come over and get my swatches and do new swatch and spot, and this is where things get confusing. Okay, so we're just going to use a color that's completely unaffiliated with my with my document, and this is going to be the one that we're going to indicate the name for our spot gloss. Spot gloss. Apparently I have caps lock turned on. Turn that off. Gloss. Swatch. Okay. And then we're going to come to our layers and make sure this is on its own layer, and I want it, I actually really like that color, which is unfortunate because it's the color I'm using as my indicator. So we're going to we'll make it this one, this purplish color, and then this is the spot gloss layer. Spot gloss. And copied it. Come on here, paste it, and turn it the color that we have designated as the spot gloss color. Okay, so look at, we have a spot gloss, we have an emboss, and so two specialty print finishes on a postcard. This would be an expensive postcard to print, but it would also look amazing if you were to make it. Like, this is 100%, this would not get mistaken as junk mail. This would be like what is that thing? I want to know more type deal. Okay, so when you have your layers panel all set and ready to go, you check out your design again. Make sure everything is looking sharp, looking as it needs to. Yeah, then you can save it up and move right along. One thing I will say too, which I was gonna do and then I just closed the window, is again, good practice. Just go to select all unused on your swatches, and then go and delete. And you only really want to have the swatch colors that you are actively using in your document, and it'll just it'll clean up your document. It'll make it a smaller file size, and it will just remove any kind of ambiguity, kind of confusion for your printer. So they kind of know what's what and what's where, and all of that sort of thing. So good stuff to keep in mind. Okay, so when you're all finished, we're just going to save this up, and then we're going to talk about mocking up. Caps. Assignment 4. So hopefully, just really think about consistency and simplicity as you're designing your postcard, and it should be not too difficult overall as you're kind of putting it together. And if you have some work in progress that you'd like me to send, send it along, and I will give you feedback. And I promise I will turn it around quickly, because I know that this is the end in a lot of ways. So you guys need to know what's up, so you can change and work and shift accordingly. So, all right. So now let's jump into our next topic, which is going to be, oops, not that. not references. We don't need to look at that. Although I guess I could. That was part of the client project I was telling you about, designing the presentation. So we could take a look at that as well, and you guys could see what I come up with. What we're going to do next is look at portfolio time. So in yesterday's session, we talked about critique and feedback and that whole process. That is admittedly kind of a very like adult designery thing. And I say that as kind of a little bit of irony, but it is, you know, like things that you will be aware of and be participating in kind of systems and structures when you are a quote unquote professional designer. Portfolios too are something that are right in that whole scheme. So portfolios are the most important tool that you have to find a job, particularly a job where it's kind of, you find it in a cold call way, like not something that was, you know, a friend or family is working for them, or something you've been referred to, you know, just like run of the mill, I want to work for you, but I don't know you, here's my portfolio type deal. It's very, very, very key to have a good portfolio, and to have a portfolio that also reflects really who you are uniquely as a designer. So good things about a portfolio, things that are positive pluses, are that a portfolio is scannable, and that an item in a portfolio is scannable, that it's easy to place, meaning that you see it, and even if you have no background on the project, you know kind of what you know what it is, you know what it should be. It feels logical, so that's what easy to place means. Perfect. I know I personally hate the P word, but it needs to be as perfect as possible. And perfect not in the sense that it could never be better, but perfect in the sense that, you know, all of the imagery is high quality, nothing is pixelated, nothing is misspelled, nothing is kind of in an odd place, getting cut off, what have you. So as perfect as possible. And then also that it's adequately narrated and curated. And basically what this means is that you are showing good views of things. You are kind of, you know, highlighting details, highlighting pieces, any of that sort of thing. So you're taking your viewer really on a journey through the project and showing them kind of the best bits and like making them excited about the story. So how can you sell your vision, your professionalism, and your unique appeal as a designer? And that's really what you have to look at when you are thinking about your portfolio work, and especially when you're thinking about composing your portfolio. So we're going to jump into Behance, and as we Behance.net, and as we think about how we're going to put our work together in our portfolios, we're actually going to do a search on Cloud Sunbeam and see what your compatriots have done previously, to see what see if anything comes up when we do Cloud Sunbeam. Okay, next thing we're going to look at, since apparently Cloud Sunbeam doesn't do much, and it's university. And all right, here's where the big reveal worked at one point and isn't anymore. That's okay. Let's see if we do people. Does that come up with anything? Yeah. Oh, here's a person. Let's see if she's done anything. So anyway, what I think is quite nice is if you are able to see kind of what other students have done. for, wow, look at how cool that is, what other students have done for this, kind of how they're showing things off, and how you can kind of learn from them. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a second and give you guys, instead of doing a wild goose chase on Behance, let me just give you a couple names of students that have successfully completed this course and project. Well, I won't give you names, but we'll look at their portfolios, mostly so that you can get an idea of kind of how people are showing off these items, and might, you know, help you as you're thinking about how you can show them as well. So I'm going to take just a quick. Okay, this might not be a good idea. All right, so anyway, it was all working so well until it didn't. Okay, well, that didn't work, but let's get back to Behance and go from there. But yeah, so anyway, in Behance, you can check to see, and the other space where you can look for or you can ask previous students to kind of just show their work to you is in the GA community, or if you're checking out, Design Club or Coffee with Creatives or something like that. That's another good spot to just check into, how you might be able to put these projects together, and just what other people are doing as far as kind of showing off their work and creating something that is really curated. And it's just, it's unfortunate because I just did this recently, and I was able to find all of the Cloud Sunbeam projects that were coming out of IU, and I don't know what happened, where they went to. And now it's like that feeling of I must find it again. But anyway, we won't. We will just have to trust that that they are that they are there in some way. Okay, so let's look up instead postcard design and see kind of how people are showing their stuff. And the reason that I think it's helpful sometimes to just do a search on Behance is because you really want to see how your work is going to kind of stack up. So you want to see kind of how other people are showing off their pieces, what it looks like, how they're choosing to present it, that sort of thing. And so what I think is the best way to do that is to really use mock-ups and to create kind of an overall curated presentation of what you have. And especially with this project, we have so many different parts. So you can really mock up each part so that it feels like something different and new, and then navigate your audience a little bit like, you know, how this Paris setup has been. So, you know, highlighting, targeting different aspects, different elements of what you've created, and why it's such a cool thing. So what we're going to do now is just take a little bit of a look, kind of a review-ish, maybe, of creating mock-ups and all that entails. So what I'm going to do first is think about mocking up a poster. So I'm going to just close that up, and I'm going to go onto Google and do free poster mockup PSD. I would recommend if you're really into mockups and you have some in your portfolio already, I would say make sure that you don't have the same mockups for multiple projects. So mostly, like, if you have this retro frame poster for a project, don't use it for another project, because you want it to be kind of a unique look, a unique kind of feel per project. So that's my my bit of wisdom is, you know, don't reuse, you know, mock-ups for different things. So, but when you find one you like, looks great. I like this one. We'll click on it. Entirely free. Okay. And how do we get it? Scroll down, see the options, then download it. Okay. And another cool thing I like about mockups, and why I think it's a good idea, ooh, that's cool, and why I think it's a good idea to have mockups as part of your portfolio, is that they really just help to give, they give your work that sense of atmosphere, and they really show that you know how to think holistically about the project that you've created. So it could be just a flat file, like flat files are fine, but when you put it up into a mock-up, then it actually looks like a thing, and it's just a whole lot easier to kind of sell and to convince clients as to what it is, and that you have the ability to create in these systems. So we're going to just wait for this to open, and then we're going to drop this in and talk about how to place and curate. Yeah, this is where we watch Photoshop and just think about how it's going to load. So as we're waiting for this to load, and as we're talking on the subject still of portfolios, another thing you guys might want to think about as you're thinking about, you know, which projects from this course you want to put up into Behance. Also think about how you're going to describe what you made. So we talked about portfolios. It's important that they're curated, which means that you choose cool stuff to put in them, and also that they're narrated, and that's that you provide enough kind of overview of what is happening in the project, what the formats are like, that sort of thing, so that somebody from the outside can look at it and say, oh, okay, I totally get, you know, what that person is doing. There's not a lot of kind of guesswork involved. So for this project, you know, think about what you would say. And here's a hint: don't say it was a school project. Say, you know, something like Cloud Sunbeam, an electronic dance band, hired me to produce various promotional materials. All you need to do and you get that in there. If you want to be particularly cool with your mockups, you can use filters or drop-in patterns or textures to mimic the advanced print production techniques that you kind of built in. So Photoshop does have a pretty good emboss emboss tool. So if you want to show that, that you're kind of creating a raised element, kind of 3D stuff to your piece, that would be interesting. Or if you want to put a gold or silver filter or a glossy or something like that, that's fine as well. Apparently Photoshop is being Photoshop. Okay, so here's our mock-up. Wow, this is so cool. So much here. And I'm going to find the layer that has the, is that the poster? There it is, poster far from wall. So you always have to, when you get free mock-ups especially, you have to kind of do a little bit of a hunt to figure out what goes where. So here, this one, you can always, you're usually keyed in by what layer is visible, so the layer visibility indicator. And then once you open the file, then you can kind of see what's here. So poster, double click on it. Oh wow, it's a vector smart object. Interesting. So it actually will now open in Illustrator. Again, good to know, which is convenient because I'm going to just grab this guy and copy and oops, get rid of all that and paste. And this is, we can imagine that this is the poster. And of course it would have the good text and it would have the good design as well. And then I'm just going to save in here. So save your Vector Smart. More often than not, it will be what's called a PSB, which is a Photoshop file, which you're probably all familiar with this. But when it opens as Vector Smart, it just means it opens in Illustrator, and then it's going to update the smart object. Oh wow, that was unexpected. Oh man, I have no idea what just happened. Okay, so let's see here. Apparently, I should have read the instructions about what layer to put things into. Okay. We just get rid of those. Okay, and then we save this. This is very quickly turning into a session of like what not to do for a mock-up. Oh man, I have zero idea what just happened with this, but I know that we could figure it out. I could figure it out, or I could just get a different mock-up, which might be a bit easier. That's so bizarre. I don't know what happened here. Okay, well, if this happens to you, just know that there are many mock-ups in the world, and you don't need to use this one. There's actually here. Let's just go in and use the poster. Oh, it's not there either. I apologize. This is turning into a train wreck, but hopefully we will be able to redeem it at some point. But it's a design process. You can't. Sometimes it doesn't work as well as you want it to. So let's get this guy instead. Yay. Or let's actually go into Photoshop and just create something new And okay, now we're gonna try something different. And that is going up through our Creative Cloud, and just go to Assets, and then look for mockups here via the Creative Cloud Marketplace. So we're just going to click Poster, and so this is another good way to search for mockups, and perhaps they will work a little bit better. So we're just going to click this, add to my library, and it's going to just download and drop it into Photoshop. In theory, that's what it should be doing. Okay, so let's check the library and see what's happening there. If it is there. And I do promise that mocking up is easy, but apparently sometimes it's not, so. Okay, we'll just grab this guy. Oh, and that's a JPEG. No, we don't want that guy. Okay, so we will grab, so we don't want a JPEG because it doesn't have a smart layer that we can mock into. We'll grab this one. This is a PSD. Okay, so here we have something. And basically what we're going to do is just your poster here, replace me. Yes, this is what we like. And then I'm just going to drop this thing in, which is the pattern that I am borrowing from a student, and then hit save. This is a PSB, you'll see. And in theory, I've lost my hope. Look at that, it looks great. It's saved as a mock-up. So for your posters, you can very easily mock them up into into a setting, and I swear it's very easy. And then take these pictures, and then these are the ones that you can then use to drop your images into your portfolio, and it will just give them that extra bit of kind of consistency from piece to piece. So what I would recommend, we're not going to go through that process with a postcard or with a folder, because I'm sure you're probably cringing as much as I am at the thought of us just doing that a whole bunch of more times. But what I would actually really recommend is, once you have that you do mock up, and I would say mock up your at least your postcard, your poster, your postcard, and if possible your CD cover, or your folder. Like, it doesn't really matter. I would say try to do at least 3 of the 4, and then once you have them mocked up, the easiest way to kind of then just gauge your consistency is if you open all your mockups in Photoshop, and then just go to Window, Arrange, and tile all vertically or tile horizontally. It really doesn't matter. And then just zoom out so you can see each of your mockups side by side. And what this will allow you to do is to just look at them and assess and say, okay, does it feel like it's related? Does it feel like it's part of the same family? Does it feel like it's too much of a direct copy, so it's feeling kind of boring? Like what's the connection between each of these pieces, and how does it either need to be strengthened, or is it working? Is it working perfectly, kind of as is? So if you feel like it needs to be strengthened in any way, just go back in, open your file, and kind of tweak it, and then just update your mockup. It really isn't difficult. It's just I made it look exceedingly difficult, but it really, really isn't, guys. Like once you get into kind of the flow and the movement of this, and it will pay off tremendously. So this is kind of how you assess you just assess the overall kind of credibility of it, and if it feels like it has some good consistency. So again, go to Window, tile horizontally or tile vertically, and then just see everything from kind of the big picture, and then go from there. Okay, so we're going to do something that's completely unrelated, but I think is quite valuable for you to just be aware of, and that is, if you haven't signed up yet for Creative Market, do go sign up for Creative Market. And even more, you could, in theory, you can sell stuff on Creative Market if you have good creative pieces. The other cool thing is that they have, apparently the internet hates me today as well, but they also have, yay, it's here. They also have free things that they send out 6 free assets every week. And a really cool thing that I saw this week, and I get these delivered to my inbox, is this guy, Coffee Mockup Scene Generator. I know that we have lots of potential projects that have coffee-ish things as their deliverables. So whether it's coffee cups, coffee bags, whatever, this is a super great mockup to have, and it's all of these things, and it's free. And then you can mock up your elements into these scene creators, and it's a really cool kind of thing. It has nothing to do with Cloud Sunbeam, I will 100% say, but it's a really good download to get. And for even if you just make a logo, you can suddenly take a logo and give it like legs in a whole bunch of ways by putting it into a scene. And so stuff like this is just really, really nice to have. And again, Creative Market, you get 6 free things every week, and it's your choice if you want to download them. I every once in a while I download something, but then every once in a while, something that's this good comes, and it's like, oh, we need this. This is a really cool thing. So definitely check out Creative Market and see how just kind of creating these scenes, creating this atmosphere, really can be used in a good manner. So, okay, so let's jump back into our PDF and just cover a couple more things. So how can you sell your vision, professionalism, and unique appeal as a designer? So really think about that as you are putting your portfolio pieces together, as you are uploading, and as you're considering, if you want to mock up or not. Again, for this assignment, you don't need to mock up if you're like, I'm just barely getting by as is. Just turn in flat files. It's fine. You can always mock up when you're in your portfolio class. But I would really, really, really encourage you, if you can put the time in now, just do it and see kind of what cool things you might be able to come up with. Because it is really great to see your work when it is kind of in a more finished state, as opposed to when it just continuously lives on your computer. So definitely something to think about from there. Okay, so for assignment 4, things that you need to know, things that you need to turn in to get full credit. Essentially, you will need a poster. You will need a folder. So poster from assessment 2, folder from assignment 3, CD cover from assignment 3, from assessment 3, and then postcard from assignment 4. So assignment 4 elements. Just make sure you're getting those in. All right, so we're going to do one final thing. before I let you guys out a little bit early. And that is that we are going to jump back into our classroom, and I'm going to remind you, like a broken record, of one thing, and then we're going to look into something else. Career integration quiz, 15 points. Make sure these 15 points are yours. So make sure you are just making time at some point this week to complete this, so that we can have everybody be on board, and also so everybody can give feedback about what you liked, what you didn't like. Yeah, hopefully you give me grace that this session of things that were a little off. Being a designer, it's like 98% it all works, and then that 2% things just go haywire. All right, so I thought we would finish up with just a preview of the cumulative assessment for this course. So again, there are, how many questions? 14 questions, and it's kind of over everything that we have covered in this course. And if you're like, wait, free answers, they do rotate through, so there's no guarantee that the questions that we look at right now are the ones that you will see, because there's a very large pool of questions. But that said, there's no guarantee it won't be, so never know, you can kind of roll the dice that way. The other thing too is that these are all open book, open note, so please take that seriously. And if you don't know the answer, look for it, don't guess. Because you have the internet at your fingertips. You also have our course at your fingertips. So, be smart about how you approach this, and kind of be smart about, ideas and things, ways that you're finding the answers that you need. Okay, so first question, how does a spot color differ from a process color? So that takes us back to weeks 1 and 2. So what could it be? Spot color is a primary. A spot color is a process color is created using specialty ink, or a spot color is created using specialty ink. So remember, process is CMYK, spot is not. Well, spot is, but spot is created some different way, so keep that in mind. What aesthetic do spot colors, die cutting, and specialty coating applications bring to a piece? Basically, the word aesthetic means kind of look and feel. So how do things with specialty print finishes make things that are printed with them feel? Number 3, what type of printing occurs when an inked image is transferred from a plate to a rubber blanket and then to paper? This is taking us all the way back to week 1 with our printing processes. So rubber blanket sounds like things that are getting rolled along, so might be interesting. It is essential to apply what when creating a die line in InDesign? This is week 2 when we created our swatch booklets. We talked about creating die lines, and we had that tiny graphic that showed all the pieces together. What was that one little thing that we said, check this as well? What happens to an image that has been embossed? Does it stand out? Does it depress, or is it cut away? If a paper is less than 30 pounds in weight, what is it most likely used for? Again, this was week 2 when we were talking about paper types and swatch booklets. Remember, lower weight equals thinner paper, so kind of keep that in mind. If you would like your book to lay flat easily when it is open, what is the best binding option? So again, week 1, I think, when we were making the, week 1 when we were making the infographic about the books, we talked about this. Print on demand most likely uses what type of print technology? Offset, letterpress, or digital? What's that going to be? What is the name of the check you should run before sending your InDesign file to print? Again, week 1, we did this activity as the assessment 1. What color do you need to give to the element you are going to apply the specialty process to? Red, green, or black. And this could be specialty process like an emboss, etc. If you have a vector image, what else is true about its resolution? Good stuff. If you do not live in close physical proximity to a printer, what should you do? Again, when we were doing both um, print pricing and week one when we were talking about sample books, give you some hints. If you are using a specialty print technique, what will most likely happen with the time it takes for your job to be completed? So how do specialty print techniques basically impact job project timelines? And if your piece feels disorganized and hard to follow, which design principle are you most likely missing? So remember we talked about CRAP, the Big Four design principles, how they kind of navigate you through a design piece and lead to excellence and brilliance. And we did that in week 3, was the session for that. So we're not gonna, we didn't give away any answers, we just looked at questions. But yeah, hopefully that gives you a good idea as to what kind of is ahead for the assessment, and you can go from there. All right, well, I think we're going to wrap up a bit early, and I think we will have one more session of just a bit of feedback as things come in during the week to just make up a bit more time. But yeah, so overall, thanks guys for a really great course. I hope that you feel like you learned some interesting things about print production, about advanced techniques that you could use. I hope you all were able to order your sample books and see these print production techniques really played out in actual practice. And I hope also that you have a really great new mod, whatever might be coming up for you all. I am teaching advanced color theory, so if that's coming up for you, we will see each other again. But otherwise, take care, everyone, and I will look forward to seeing your final projects come in. And as usual, if you have any questions about anything or you need some light work turned in or whatever, just let me know. I will be very open until midnight on Saturday, and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone pass the course, hopefully, because I know you guys all have it in you. Totally believe in you and that sort of thing. All right, well, take care, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. And yeah, see you around. Bye.